Hey friends, Krista Ordonez here, Doctor of Physical Therapy and owner of Functional Flow Pilates, to talk to you about how to get deeper into your squat. One of the often overlooked moves on improving that bottom squat all the way down to the ground is the ability for your hip to internally rotate. And what this allows is that the ball is able to deepen into the posterior capsule of your hip at the bottom end and to engage those muscles like your glutes to get out of it. So I'm going to show you 3 joint mobilizations to improve your joint mobility into hip internal rotation. So you want to have a band, heavy, medium heavy, and then we'll get working onto the ground. So first one is a caudal glide, which is a glide going down towards your feet. You want to put it deep into that hip crease and then shimmy your way up from your anchor. So again, it's going to be pulling down towards your feet. You're going to use your hands to pull your knee into your chest. So this is bringing you into that hip flexion, but I want your muscles to relax here and let your hands do the work. And your other legs are going to go all the way down. All right, so while you're here, you should have moderate pull of this hip going into that down glide, which is necessary for the ball to go deeper into that posterior capsule of your hip. If you don't feel it enough, you can shimmy away. What you want to avoid is any kind of pinching like in the joint itself. And then if you can, avoid turning out too much into external rotation. Try to keep it as strict parallel up and also play around with going slightly in. So we're going to address 3 different ways to get into your posterior capsule. Because the hips are so variable from human to human, we're just going to cover all the angles and just see how your hips move. So what I recommend when you're in this joint mobilization, maybe 3 or 5 slow return of that knee and away, while that band gives it that posterior and caudal glide, that downward glide. And final time, I want you to just work on your breathing here. So your breathing is to help downregulate your nervous system, try to allow those muscles to relax, and then feed deeper into that capsule, accepting this joint mobilization here. Couple more breaths. Once I was able to shut the system down, I was able to feel that deeper stretch, not just into the front, but starting to get into that posterior side. All right, so now we're going to do a lateral glide mobilization to promote also a little bit more hip adduction and internal rotation coming in. So pivoting about 90 degrees, so you want to line up your hip with your anchor. And then we'll do about the same thing, but you don't have to go all the way knee to chest. Let's start with knee right above the hip, about 90 degrees. And then so when this band is pulling it out into a lateral glide out to the side, I'm going to angle into hip adduction, adduction. And then I want a little bit more. Just promoting that ball glide. And then I can play around with adding a little bit more hip flexion if that feels well. So 3 to 5 movements here. This will help you explore like where you feel most restricted and tight and where you need it most. Once you find your sweet spots, kind of stay there and do your 3 to 5 breaths. And one more. Ooh, all right. Last joint mobilization here with the band. We are going to go up into a split kneel. For viewing purposes, I'm going to do it on my opposite hip, but you stay the same. We're going to drive it same place into that groin. So in this hip extension, we're going to promote the ball to go back into a pure posterior tilt. So you want to be about even with the anchor of that resistance band. Walk it out for some moderate to heavy tension right into that hip crease. We're going to get into this hip extension here. Posterior tilt so you're not into your low back. Really even out, square up your pelvis and your hips. And then so this band is promoting my thigh and my ball and socket joint to slide straight back into that posterior glide. So we can lose to the band a little bit and then tuck, and press into it. Keeping it at the hip. I'll often see people use their back, right? We're not into our spine. It's right here at the hip and pelvis, right? So the hip and pelvis movement is very important in order to get deeper into that deep squat. So loose to the band and tuck. Loose to the band and tuck. And last. So we're going to just stay put, 3 to 5 breaths here. Again, letting that band do its work, pulling it into that posterior glide. You won't feel this as much as the other two because this one there's a lot of muscular activation here, but still doing its job, giving some feedback of what the joint can do. And then you use your exercises to maintain that gained range of motion. All right. So there you have it. 3 joint mobilizations that you can do with yourself with a heavy resistance band. Check in on your squats and see how those feel, how your hips feel. Can you get into those bottom butt muscles in order to get yourself out of it? A lot of times people lose the connection. We end up dumping at the bottom of our squat and then coming back up. And so this winking effect where we want to still be engaged into our hips at the top bottom, the same way we get to the top. Hopefully that was helpful. Let me know how I can better serve you next time, and make sure you check out the video on 3 exercises that you can do on your own for your hip internal rotation.